Betrayal in a country house. Who's right and who's wrong? That night, it cost me a friendship that was more precious to me than any career. Forgive me. Victoria and William were more than just a couple in love. They were two halves of a whole. They met at university. He, the brilliant heir to his father's business empire, she, a talented artist from a modest family who captivated him with her intelligence and flamboyance. Their world was full of colour, laughter, and plans for the future. The crowning glory of this world was their best friend, Michael. Michael was William's polar opposite. If William was the bright sun, then Michael was the calm and reliable moon. He had been with them since childhood, the quiet boy from next door, always keeping his finger on the pulse of their feelings. He was the one who suggested to William the best way to propose to Victoria, and the one who comforted her when they argued. He loved Victoria, quietly, deeply, and unrequitedly. And this love was his cross to bear, and his joy, just being there. The evening that changed everything began as the most wonderful of their lives. William officially took charge of the family's new international project, which meant his imminent departure to London for 2 years. But this was joyful news. He already held 2 tickets in his hands. Their future shone like the city lights at night outside the window of an expensive restaurant. The 3 of them celebrated. Victoria beamed. William held her hand, and Michael toasted their happiness. And only the most attentive observer could detect a shadow of pain in the depths of his eyes. The wine flowed freely, the laughter was loud and carefree, and it was precisely in this carelessness that a fatal mistake lurked. Realising that this was their last such night before a long separation, William, intoxicated with happiness and champagne, proposed something crazy, continuing the party at his parents' country house, who were away. This was forbidden by his father's strict rules, but the prohibition only fueled the excitement. The atmosphere in the huge, empty, and all too perfect house changed. The opulence was oppressive. The silence was deafening. To ease the tension, William found his father's vintage whiskey. The conversation turned to the future, separation, and fears. And then, looking at Michael, William, wanting to please him, made a fatal mistake. "You know, Mike, while I'm away, you're the one who should look after Vika. You've always loved her, haven't you? As a brother, I mean." He laughed awkwardly. A dead silence fell. Victoria looked down. Michael turned pale. This secret, which all 3 of them had carefully avoided for years, was thrown onto the table like a deck of cards. Michael, deeply hurt by this unceremoniousness and the pity into which his feelings had turned, stood up abruptly. "Do you want to know the truth, William? Yes, I love her. I've always loved her. Much longer than you, and much more quietly than you could ever love." The words hung in the air, heavy and sharp as knives. An argument erupted. Years of suppressed emotions, jealousy, and unspoken grievances burst forth. William, blinded by rage, screamed of betrayal. Michael, finally daring to speak, screamed of his selfishness. Victoria tried to stop them, her heart torn between love for one and pity for the other. In the heat of the argument, William stumbled back and knocked over a huge Qing dynasty Chinese vase, a family heirloom whose value was incalculable. The crash of shattered porcelain deafened everyone. In the ensuing silence, only a heavy sigh of horror could be heard. The consequences were unimaginable. And in that moment, Michael changed. The pain and rage in his eyes gave way to icy calm. He saw their fear of his father's wrath, of the ruin of William's future. He saw his chance. "I'll fix this," he said quietly, and left the room. 20 minutes later, the police arrived at the house. Michael, cool and collected, made a statement. He had witnessed Victoria, stressed by the impending separation, accidentally break a vase, and William, trying to protect her, tried to cover up the incident. He, Michael, as an honest citizen, couldn't allow this. It was the perfect revenge. He didn't lie. He simply presented the facts in a favourable light. But the consequences were disastrous. William's father, furious not so much at the loss of the vase as at his son's cowardice and unprofessionalism in covering up the crime, immediately dismissed him from the project. Tickets to London were cancelled. William's career collapsed overnight. But worse still, the rift that formed between them that night proved irreparable. William couldn't forgive Victoria for the quarrel that had started it all. Victoria couldn't forget Michael's icy gaze and his betrayal. Trust, love and friendship were shattered, like that very vase. They separated a month later, unable to bear the weight of that night. 5 years passed. Victoria became a famous artist, her work exhibited in galleries. She learned to live with a quiet pain in her heart. William, after a series of setbacks, started from scratch in another country, building his own small but successful business without his family's help. Michael took William's place in the company and became his father's right-hand man. He received everything he wanted: power, respect, and closeness to William's family. But he was completely alone. Fate brought them together again at the opening of a new gallery where Victoria was exhibiting. William arrived, driven by old feelings and longing. They saw each other across the room, and time stood still. Their gaze held all the pain, all the love, and all the regret for that one night that had robbed them of years of happiness. Michael was there too. Seeing their gaze, he understood everything. He approached them, and his eyes no longer held the same malice, only bitter regret. "That night, it cost me a friendship that was more precious to me than any career," he said quietly. "I was blinded by resentment. Forgive me." But it was too late for apologies. A mistake had been made. It would forever scar their hearts. Victoria and William left the exhibition together, holding hands, trying to find, amidst the fragments of the past, the very feelings that had once bound them. That forbidden night had changed their destinies forever. It had taken away their youth, their innocence, and their faith in the perfection of friendship. But it had also, through pain and betrayal, given them a chance to start over, no longer as naive dreamers, but as adults who had learned the price of error and forgiveness. Their love was to be reborn, and this time, not in the light of a carefree celebration, but in the twilight of the pain they had endured, which only made it stronger.